Hey guys, welcome to a book haul. I know I said in my last one that it would probably be a while before I did another one, but things changed. They usually do. But on the bright side, I did not spend much on these books. I'll tell you a little bit where I got them all, and then I'll show you all the books that I got. So the most that I spent on books was actually not that much. I bought some from Holly. She is doing a fundraiser for cystic fibrosis. So she has a Instagram page called Books for Breath. I'll leave it linked in the description. So any books that you buy from there are going to help, I guess, raise awareness for cystic fibrosis. I'm not even exactly sure. But unfortunately, and understandably, she doesn't ship books. Shipping in Canada is crazy expensive. We don't get deals on shipping books and media like people do in the States. So she doesn't ship them, but if you are local, definitely check out her Instagram. So I got some from there. I bought one at the thrift store, I think just. One is an Amazon pre-order that I ordered with birthday money that I got like back in May. And then Jared and I went on a date. We went to a second-hand bookstore. I brought in a bunch of books and we bought a bunch of books, and then I walked out with 50 cents in my hands. So I am a cheap date. I make money on my dates, apparently. So, and then there's a couple of little free library books. I think that's all of it. Let's start with my one thrift store book because I was so excited about this. It is a vintage, like, what is the actual year? Okay, so this book is copyright 1931, but this one is actually 1953 is when it was printed. This is, what's it actually called? Sunshine Sketches of a Little Town by Stephen Leacock. So it's kind of cool. Just has that on the spine there. And this is one of the few books that I read in university that I really enjoyed. So from what I remember is they're just little sketches, really. Short little stories of things that happened in a town, but it always like escalates, you know, and it goes through everybody in a small town. The story gets blown out of proportion a little bit, and I remember thinking it was hilarious, and I've been wanting to read it ever since. And then when I saw this at the thrift store, I paid $1 for it. It's a cool little vintage book that will look cool on my shelves, and I actually enjoy. I was very excited about that. Then we'll talk about my Amazon pre-order. I mean, I told you guys this was coming, so this is really no surprise probably. It is The Premonition at Wither's Farm. I read this book this last weekend, and it came out on, I think, the 11th, so Tuesday of last week, and just devoured it. I devour every single Jamie Jo Wright book. Once again, she's knocked it out of the park. Now I have to wait till April till she writes another book. It's always the conundrum. Yeah, so like her other books, this one is dual timeline. I think we're at 1910, and we follow a woman who, very interestingly, her father has passed away a few years back, but he was like a devout Christian. But her mother is, what's the right word I'm looking for? She is very into the spiritual world. So she's in this weird spot of trying to figure out which one of her parents is right. And then we flip to present day, and we are following a woman who's, along with her husband, has just purchased this really old farm that's very creepy. Apparently the foundation I would be so creeped out. I could not live in this house. The foundation of the house was built using messed up gravestone markers. People spelt words wrong or whatever, and you can go in the basement and you can see the gravestone markers. And I mean, they were never used, but like, that's creepy. That's a really good element to it. But I do want to give trigger warnings. Our main timeline, our present day timeline, struggles with infertility and depression, and so I know that can be a big trigger for people, but I feel like Jamie Jo Wright tackles such hard subjects in such a beautiful way. So in 1910, there is a guy who kills a couple of girls. They call him the Cornstalk Ripper, I think, and things come up present day that they're trying to solve the mysteries. I always like seeing how she merges the two together. October was the perfect month to read this book. Okay, let's go on to the ones that I got from Holly. So, a bit of an assortment. Actually, one of them got added to my other stack. These are a couple of the ones I got from Holly. The Alloy of Law. So I think this one is book 1 in the Mistborn Era 2 series. I want to start this winter. I still need to finish the Reckoners series by him. I have the last book left, and then I'm going to be starting in on this. So this is apparently a fantasy western series. Jared just read it. So I enjoyed Mistborn. I think that was the second of Sanderson's writings that I ever read. I read Skyward and then Mistborn, I think. And this one is Era 2, so we're a few thousand years later, I think, than Era 1. And I don't know, because in the first one they have like these certain people, and I don't remember the terminology. If they are a certain kind of person, they can ingest certain metals and then have certain powers. So that was cool. But now you're going to take that and you're going to put that into a Western setting. I am so very curious about the series. I hear it's not as good as Era 1. That's okay. I just want to read it because I am so curious. Then I got the Paradise War. This is a Stephen Lawhead book. This is probably the author that I own the most books by and have never read any of his books. I own an entire trilogy. I have a couple more books here to haul. I have a couple books on my shelf. But Jared really likes him, so worst case scenario, if I don't like him, he does. So I don't even know what this is. I just saw that it was Stephen Lawhead and wanted to buy it. It says, from the dreaming spires of Oxford. Oh, any book that's going to take place in Oxford. Lewis drives north to seek a mythical creature as a misty glen in a misty glen in Scotland. Oh, so we're going to leave Oxford and go to Scotland. That's okay. Scotland's pretty cool too. Expecting little more than a weekend diversion, Lewis finds himself in a mystical place where two worlds meet in the time between times, in the heart of a battle between good and evil. So I actually don't know anything about this series. I don't even know anything about his writing. I own books from multiple series. I don't really know what goes where, but I'm just gonna keep buying them every time I find them. This one sounds really interesting. Oh, he lives in Oxford. I mean, I don't know if he's still alive. He's been writing for a very long time. So there's that. Then I got another one of these Agatha Christie 5 murder mysteries in one. So I just hauled one in my last book haul. This one has, so it has more of the classics. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, love that one. The Secret Adversary, love that one. The Moving Finger, love that one. The Boomerang Clue, I don't think I've read that one. And Death Comes as the End. I definitely know Death Comes as the End sounds familiar, but I can't remember if I read that one. So Agatha Christie is one of those authors where I want to own her books in like multiple editions too. So I'm totally okay with the fact that I own 3 of these books already. I just love owning all her books. She's definitely one of my favorite authors. Okay, let's jump into some of the books that I bought at the secondhand store. So I brought a box of books there, got a credit, and then Jared and I were just like randomly picking books up. We went and brought our books there and he did the tally, and it turns out that we got 50 cents to our credit without even really trying to do the math. But I want to share these ones because these are more Stephen Lawhead ones. So this one is book 4 of the Pendragon cycle. Is this one actually just called Pendragon? I guess it is. I own Merlin, which I think is book 2 in that same cycle, possibly. That one I found in a little free library. Yeah, so Jared gravitates towards the fantasy and science fiction section always, so he found that. And then he found book 1 in this series as a mass market paperback size. And then these 2 books, which I gotta show you the covers closer up, but this is part of a series. I'm not sure which one. We've got The Sword and the Flame and the Warlords of Nin. So these are book 2 and 3, not sure which one's which. And then he has book 1 upstairs, but these are something. And then this one, there's something else. Pretty cool. So getting to have quite the Stephen Lawhead collection for an author that I've never even read. Okay, and then we're gonna come back to the rest of the books that I got from the secondhand store. We're gonna share a few that I got from a little free library. So I found The Red Tent. this is one of those books that pops up all the time. It's supposed to be, I think it's supposed to be like biblical fiction, but it's so popular that I like really hesitate to trust it. But I thought I would give it a try. It was a little free library. If I don't like it, I'll put it into a little free library. I might look it up a little bit more before I start it. So I think this is supposed to be, oh, maybe I should just double check. It doesn't have any information. Yeah, so this is supposed to be Dinah. We got like a family tree there and everything. So I don't know if it'll be any good. Let me know if you guys have read this or if you've heard things about it. I'm curious. I may read it, I may not. And then a little while ago, I was watching one of Felicia's videos. She had behind her a bunch of Stuart McLean books, and she wasn't even talking about them. They were just like on the bookshelf behind her. So I asked her if he was a good author because I keep seeing one in a little free library, and she said he's amazing. Go grab it. So this one is in kind of terrible condition. Obviously, someone spilled like coffee all over it. But I got this. It's Extreme Vinyl Cafe, and I'm now seeing that it's book number 7. So I do not know if you have to read this in order. I don't even know what this is. It says, what possessed Dave to persuade an 87-year-old man to bungee jump off a cruise ship? Okay, I have no idea. I don't know what this is about, but she told me to get it, so I grabbed it, and I'll have to give it a try. Okay, then back to the rest of my books from the, why do I keep blanking what it's called? Like a secondhand bookstore. The first thing is, I got a bunch of Agatha Christie, but this is probably the one I'm the most excited about. I got Unfinished Portrait. So this is by Mary Westmacott, which is Agatha Christie's pen name that she wrote romance novels under. Now, I am not a romance novel kind of person, but I am an Agatha Christie kind of person. So I knew that I needed to give this a try. So I don't know what this is about. It doesn't actually say anything here, but you need to see this cover closer up because that's another one of those awesome ones. So yeah, very curious to read one of her romance novels. Now a bunch more Agatha Christie. I got The Moving Finger. This is one of my favorites. It was originally one of my favorites, but I've read more since, so it's been bumped down. It is a Miss Marple, but she only comes in later. I really like the edging. Actually, this one too. The one is a little bit more blue and the other one's a little bit more green. I like that on these kind of books. The covers of these editions just crack me up. Like, I've read this book twice and I don't really even understand what the cover's about. When are these covers from? Somebody got it in January 1977. Glenn Fingler. This was published in 1970. So yeah, that gives me 70s vibes. Then I got Mr. Parker Payne, Detective. Yeah, I feel like maybe I've read a short story with him in it, but I've never read any of her actual novels. I don't know how many he's in. Maybe it's just this one. There's that one. So this is a different edition. It's not nearly as funny as some of them. Then I got Cat Among Pigeons because, I don't know, it had the word cat in it, so I went for that one. This one says, Summer Term. Dear Mummy, we had a murder last night. Miss Springer, the gym mistress. It happened in the middle of the night and the police came, and this morning they're asking everybody questions. Miss Chaddick asked us not to talk to anybody about it, but I thought you'd like to know. With love, Jennifer. So the unfortunate thing is with these editions, it doesn't say like if it's following a certain detective or not, but I don't really care. I'm gonna read them all anyway. Oh, this one does. It is a Poirot mystery. This is Murder in Retrospect. This one says Amos Crail had been famous as a painter and infamous as a lover. His fiery wife Caroline had been as jealous as she was devoted. So naturally it was she who tried, oh my goodness, I cannot read. So naturally it was she who was tried and convicted for his murder. Now their daughter Carla presents the brilliant Hercule with the greatest challenge of his career, to clear her mother's name. Also, it's got like a nice yellow to it. And then, oh yes, this is a cover and a half. Destination Unknown. Look at that. When is this edition from? 1967. First published 1954. So this one says, Hillary Craven had finished with life. So when she was invited to impersonate the dead wife of a vanished nuclear scientist, she felt it might make a more interesting form of suicide than sleeping pills. She finds herself caught up in a unique organization which arranges the escape of a scientific genius to a destination unknown. Also, like, the font on the back is really hard to read. But this does not look like an Agatha Christie cover. It's really cool. And then the last book, one that I have been like searching for a long time, is My Cousin Rachel. I felt like I would probably stumble across this in a little free library or a thrift store. I've been looking for it for about 3 years and never found it. So I finally found it at a secondhand store. I had originally wanted to read this in October. I don't think it's going to happen, but hopefully soon, because I feel like from what I hear, Rebecca is Daphne du Maurier's most well-known book, but then this one seems to be the second favorite. So hopefully I will read that soon. And one of my patrons over on Patreon recently had the brilliant idea that I should kind of do like a buddy read, but like a very low-key buddy read. And I'm thinking maybe I'll do that with my classics. I'll let my patrons know whenever I'm reading a classic, and then we can kind of chat about it together. And I feel like this one would be really fun to do with that. Okay, so I think that is all for my book haul. Pretty sure. Mostly free or cheap, so that's always fun. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I would love to hear a book that you recently purchased or got from a little free library or from the thrift store. And we'll see you soon.